Hello there, and welcome to the first meetings of Physio Matters First Step and the European Network of Physiotherapy in Higher Education, otherwise known as Enfie. My name's Dara. I am a physiotherapist working out of the UK, up in West Yorkshire in England, and I'm one of the members of Physio Matters First Steps.
Hi, I'm also a member of the Physio Matters First Steps team. I'm also a qualified therapist. I've been working for just over a year, and I work out of the south of the UK.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo. I am 25 years old. I am a last year student of physiotherapy in the Netherlands, also a member of Enfie since about 2.5 years now.
Hello, my name is Arthur. I'm a 22-year-old French student of physiotherapy student. I'm in my second year, so I still have 2 years left before being graduated. Nice. And I'm part of the Enfie also.
And just to kind of explain now within what is Physio Matters First Step and what is Enfie. So Carol, Physio Matters First Steps, kind of what does it entail? And maybe as well what you've got from it so far.
So Physio Matters First Steps is a group of student physios and relatively newly qualified, up to kind of 3 years post-qualified physios or sports rehab or any of those kind of allied professions really. A group that kind of got together to try and help ease that transition between being a student and being a newly qualified therapist. And the idea really is to kind of create an open space where people can have discussions, can explore different opportunities and kind of just seek resources and help where they need it. And it's been really, really good for me because although, I was a student and kind of thankfully graduated before the whole global pandemic thing hit, it was actually quite nice to kind of not only have found my feet before that, but kind of recognize I still was and have support from people above and below me and see that I wasn't alone in that sort of weird transition period.
And Lorenzo, can you explain kind of what Enfie is, what you're involved with, and kind of what you've obviously got from it as well?
Of course. Enfie is a European network that is that has as a focal point to close the gaps between physiotherapy and higher education in Europe. And what they do is they organize seminars twice a year. One is a working seminar and one is a more theoretical lecture-based seminar where the discussion is more on where do we go. And then in the working seminar, they work on the projects discussed in the theoretical seminar. As for me personally, I have joined 2 seminars so far, and that's also how I got into this project. What I myself have got from it is it has opened my eyes to the possibilities in higher education, physiotherapy-wise. In Holland, we sometimes tend to be a little bit insular, and this has really opened me up to the possibilities of what other people are doing and where we can improve ourselves.
We both come together because we're obviously, the 2 projects are interested in education. And today's discussion is just going to talk about different ways that physiotherapy is taught at university within different countries around the UK or around Europe really at the minute, which is good. Obviously myself, studied north of England. Carol studied south of England. Got Arthur studied in France. Lorenzo in Holland. So kind of question 1, when you consider your program, what would you say are the strengths of your program? What did you enjoy? What did you get out of it? And we'll start off with Carol on that question.
I think the strengths of my program, specifically in kind of my personal university that I went to, was that from day one, we were taught like all of our theory came along with a patient case, which was quite helpful because it kind of got us thinking about our patients from day one. And I think in the UK, we are, in my experience, pretty good at actually trying, even if it's not always perfect, to link everything you teach back to the reason why we all choose to go and study therapy, whichever sort of route you choose to take it is because you want to go and help people, right?
Lorenzo, what would you say kind of was the strengths of your program that you found?
I would say our strengths are very much in line with what Carol mentioned. Back at my university, we use a system called problem-based learning, and they use a patient case to introduce the theory. So we get a case first, and then they help us work through the case. We do that in small groups, about 8 to 12. And then they take you through the case and two of the different problems you find in someone's rehabilitation process, they give you theory to learn. It keeps the main focal point stays in the center the whole time, which is the patient. And I would say that was one of the biggest strengths of my course, my program.
And would you say with that kind of that way of learning, was that introduced since day one, or did you have to go through the theory part first and then that was introduced, or what way did it work?
We got 1 week. We got 1 week to get used to the system. Like in the first week, they just explained like how problem-based learning works and what the idea behind it is and why they chose to do it that way. And then they teach you like a 7-step plan to work through a new case, to analyze what's happening, and to find a way to learn, to teach you how to find that information on yourself that's necessary in order to be able to treat the patient. So even if you come across patients you were never taught about, or pathologies you never encountered before, you would still have that baseline to fall back on. And from that first week on, they just slowly increase complexity of the cases.
Brilliant. It really sounds like that kind of that independent learning, which is good. Whenever I was at uni, it was to look at, we call it kind of table-based learning. We implemented it. Maybe we did a module, then implemented it after. But it sounds like over in Holland, they really it's really the main focus, which is brilliant. It puts it into your hands, obviously, which is nice. And Arthur, in France, what's it like in regards to your program? What are the strengths of your program?
I think I would say, first of all, the internships. Like we have 1 internship per semester. And this from the very first year of physiotherapy. So the first one are a little bit shorter, but then starting from the second year, you get 6 weeks internships per semester. So that was about half your semester. Also, I really enjoy the diversity of the subjects that are implied in class. And I think that's it's a pretty new feature in France, because France is a little bit late in EBP research and etc. Like they're starting now to produce some interesting things, and so because of that, the way that physiotherapy was instructed could sometimes not really be EBP based, but now it changes in a good way, I think.
Good stuff. And so you're introduced to the internships, as you call them. We would probably call them placements within the UK, but you're introduced those in kind of semester 1, like starting off first year, semester 1, you go out on a 6-week internship. Is that right? Or
not in the first year. The first semester is only a 2-week placement, and the second one is going to be a 4-week, and then from the second year it's going to be 6 weeks. And because the first one is so short, it's called like a observation placement, and you're not supposed to practice that much, but it's just like or at least there would be always someone supervising you, right?
Good. And again, within obviously talking about those internships in the UK, where I studied, the first year was near enough totally theory. We had 1 week of an observational, then we went out quite a bit on placement on second and predominantly on third year, with the placements kind of graded as well. Some people do, or some unis do kind of pass or fail. If we just go around each of us, what way does your uni mark? Does it look at kind of pass, fail, or does it give you a percentage when you're out on internship or when you're out on placement? Carol?
So I went to a university where if you were a bachelor, so what we call an undergraduate degree, in the UK, you were marked on a percentage that counted towards your degree mark. But if you went and studied physio as a master's, so you still came out as a qualified physio at the end, but you did a sort of more research part based to your degree, then you had a pass-fail. So it was just whether or not you passed the placement and were safe, but it didn't actually count towards your degree. So it was based on what qualification you left uni with as to whether or not it was a percentage or not.
So it's kind of undergrad degree would be percentage, and then if it was a pre-reg master's, it would be pass and fail.
Yeah.
Perfect. Lorenzo, what way did they do it over in Holland?
Placement wise, we get a mark from 0 to 10. So 10 would be the highest, 0 the lowest, and passing mark would be a 6. And then depending on how well you performed on different aspects, your mark would rise or fall. They had like a prerequisite, they had like a predetermined set of aspects you have to pass or qualify in. And I think it's like 23 questions, 23 areas you had to, you got graded in. And then they were graded on a 1 to 4 basis. And then the higher your eventual grade would be. And that was for every internship separate.
And Arthur, over in France, what way is the internships marked over there?
It's a little bit odd in a way, because it's kind of like in the same way I think Lorenzo have it's like a some kind of a grill, and different points you have to validate, but there's no really like there's not really grades on it. It's just like you get it or you don't, and so in France, physiotherapy education is divided in two, as to make like a kind of a undergraduate cycle, and then the graduating cycle, and for each you have these marks, and by the time that you get to the next cycle, you have to validate all the points. But I mean, it's kind of blurry, and sometimes the physiotherapist that is gonna mark you don't really know what the subject of the marking is. But then apart from that, we also have some grades on some papers you have to make for school, like some exams based on the patient we had.
Like maybe a reflective type paperwork as well. Again, that's talking about generally the strengths of our program, and what areas, next question is, what areas of the course would you like to be developed that bit further? What do you feel would need to be changed just slightly to make it maybe that little bit better?
I think, having spoken to kind of a lot of our First Steps team, is that in the UK, our degrees are very centralised between our sort of main healthcare service, so our national healthcare service. But actually, as physios, we don't necessarily have to work in the NHS. A lot of us choose to when we leave university. But actually, I think a lot of us, or a lot of those people who maybe choose to go work in private practices or sort of other areas of physio, may feel like our degrees are quite centric to that. And I think also traditionally over the years, we've kind of, in the UK, we've split physio into sort of 3 core areas, which are musculoskeletal, neurological, and respiratory care. And I think traditionally we've been very focused on everyone trying to get a placement or an internship in each of those 3. And actually, that's not necessarily the right thing for everyone who wants to go into physio.
And again, we kind of grew up with that, or was taught through that kind of 3 core areas. And I think more recently now they're looking at giving everyone a placement within inpatient, outpatient, and community. Obviously, more students coming in. The places for placement, they're hard to come by at times, so they just altered it a little bit, which can be good, and obviously it can be not so good if you find that you're constantly getting a similar placement and maybe miss out on one that you'd really like. Lorenzo, same question for you. What areas of the course would you like to develop that bit further?
I would say probably in the way Arthur mentioned they do their placements. I think for us, there's a stark difference between the first two and the last 2 years. Our course is made up out of 4, and the first 2 are predominantly theoretical. And the second 2 are internships with 3-month area that is choice. So you can even choose to study something that's completely unrelated to physiotherapy. But what you get is this big jump going from second to third year. There's not a lot of contact with real life patients, and a lot of it is theoretical or practiced on each other. So my main point of improvement would be introduce students to patients sooner. Like start from year 1, maybe not the first month, but second month, just let them learn how it is to treat actual patients and not cases, because we're trained to treat cases, and it's very hard to teach the students how to deal with actual real people until they are confronted with those actual people.
No, that sounds spot on. I think kind of getting that communication early doors is definitely needed. And obviously within physio, we're really taught within initially at uni is the pathology, but whether it be say a knee, that knee belongs to someone, and people's pain
Exactly.
is totally different. I don't know, brilliant, good stuff. And Arthur, what about yourself in regards into France or within your degree? What would you like to kind of develop that bit further?
As I said before, maybe the grill of marking the internships is not precise enough, and so we should maybe look at this. And also, like, having a lot of internships and over the year is a good thing, but also sometimes you feel like you don't have the sufficient theoretical baggage. For example, the lessons about the pathologies are only seen in third year, so the first 2 years you actually have to like look for all the pathologies yourself. Aside of that, maybe still the EBP part, because even though I'm really thankful to my school, they push us toward reading articles and etc. It's not a national theme. The English class in France are quite bad, so it's kind of a problem for a lot of students that ignore some articles because they can't read it properly or analyze it, and they would try to find some French articles, even though there are few of them.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think we have to obviously remember within these, like within the UK, predominantly English-speaking country, and where I'm from in Ireland, English-speaking country, a lot of the research that comes out within physio is in English, and it must be challenging at times. Obviously, being a physiotherapy student, trying to get through that research and translating it into a completely different language. Brilliant, good stuff. And next question, again on that about the program. Which aspects do you feel are unique to yourself? So we talked a little bit about the strengths, and then generally within maybe the program or the university that you're at, what aspects do you feel are unique to that particular program? Carol?
I think where I studied in kind of the south of England, there was a what we call a spinal cord unit quite nearby, and because of the very kind of central and the locality of my uni, we were quite lucky in the fact that we quite often were in a place where we were near a major trauma centre, we were near a couple of specialist units, so we quite often got patients that came in or relatives of patients that came in. So where you guys were saying that you either feel like you sometimes don't get that contact with patients, or you're taught to treat cases, or you don't feel like you've got the pathology. I feel like from quite early on in my education, even though I didn't go out on placement until probably halfway through my degree, I had that kind of exposure to someone who'd lived through, whether it be a life-changing injury or, you know, a sporting injury or whatever. I kind of had that exposure, and we could ask those questions of kind of like, what do you wish your physio had known, or what do you wish your physio had asked you? So it's that sense of getting it belonging to someone from really early on, and that actually you're just helping someone. You're not taking ownership of their condition or their situation.
Very different and fairly unique. So no, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Lorenzo, what about yourself? Something unique that you in your course offered?
Something I really appreciated and something I haven't heard much as of yet is that we were really pushing on. They were really pushing forward a new way of looking at illness and illness beliefs. I don't know if you guys heard of the six dimensions of positive health. What it is based off the new definition of health by Martel Huber. And it's a way of redefining the way we look at illness, where the focus is a lot more on acceptance and flexibility as to dealing with whatever is ailing you as to being in perfect physical health. And what the positive dimensions bring into play is that there is not just focus on the physical issues, there's also focus on mental stability and mental resilience. There is focus on, in first sense, it might sound a bit up in the air, but there's focus on spirituality and giving meaning to the people's lives, as in looking at a patient and seeing, do they have something that makes it worth for them to get out of bed? Do they have meaning in what they do? These are all aspects we take into account when we set up our treatment. And there's more dimensions of the six. Those are only three. But the way we look at the patient is more of as a complete person, being a part of their surroundings, and what can we do to influence those surroundings to help our patients rehabilitate better. Socioeconomical, cultural, religion, you name it. And they really push this program in our course. And I think that's a really good thing, because I personally believe, and I think a lot of our teachers too, in the way they teach, that there's a lot more to a patient than just the physical issues, and that all those other things influence those physical issues as well. We are also taught to color within our lines very clearly, and the second we think that we find something that's attached to one of those other dimensions, but it's not part of our job as a physiotherapist, that we learn how to speak to our patients and advise them to talk to someone else, and we learn how to have those difficult conversations too. And I think that is a very unique thing and something I very much appreciate about my course.
Nice, yeah, very good. It sounds a little bit like the extension of the biopsychosocial method. So it's
Exactly.
yeah, it sounds it's good. Brilliant stuff. And Arthur, things that you find are unique to your physiotherapy degree?
I think, well, it's maybe more school based, but they try to, well, they make a lot of manual therapy, and I think the approach is quite interesting. That is because the creator of our school, we're doing some research on it, and I think it's important to mention it because they kept this idea in this school in which there should be a lot of physiotherapist teachers actually that still practice society, with still this clinical aspect of the teachers still still being a physiotherapist and not only a teacher, right? Also, they gave some podiatry classes in my school also.
Brilliant, good. So it sounds like you kind of bring in other professionals to teach different modules, which is sounds good. Yeah, fairly unique, to be honest. For me, when I did my degree, our university had something that was a clinic, but it was a student-led clinic, which I found. I was speaking to Lorenzo a little bit before on the last meeting we had about the student-led clinic, and it was people. It would obviously be observed and kind of looked over by qualified staff, but the students can tend to lead the treatments, and these are people kind of coming off the street. These are people that they paid a very small fee. It was just enough to kind of keep the clinic running, really. But it allowed us to get that kind of hands-on hands-on kind of experience face to face with that patient, which is nice. I'd also brought in kind of first year, second year, third years, and let them mix together, so one could learn off another, and peer learning, as well as obviously supervised learning from the tutors and the lecturers. But no, great stuff, and we'll hopefully catch you in a while. In the meantime, take care, look after yourself, and we'll see you later.